Let's see.
Pray for Israel. There was a horrible attack in Israel.
That's okay. Okay. Meeting is now streaming live on custom live streaming service. I don't know what that means. Okay. Shabbat Shalom and the proper greeting for today not only is Shabbat Shalom, but also Moadim L'Simcha. That's what you say when you greet people on the intermediate days of a festival. So the proper greeting is Happy Holidays, Moadim L'Simcha, and then you're supposed to say Chagim Uzmanim L'Sason.
Thank you.
Don't have to worry about that. It's just different greetings at different times. So, Baruch
Atah
Adonai
Eloheinu
Asher
Tzivanu
Torah.
Amen. Okay. Today's going to be a very special day for a bunch of people. The adult B'nai Mitzvah class is concluding its work this afternoon, 4 p.m. at Glazer.
Oh.
And Risa and I are going to be there. And if you guys are anywhere near Glazer at 4 p.m., there's a value. There's a definite value in supporting and being present. The interesting thing is, among other things, that a majority of the people going through the adult B'nai Mitzvah program are people who completed the conversion course just a short while ago. So in a sense, it's like a graduate level program to the conversion program, and that's fine. So anyway, we're going to be at Glazer at 4 p.m. this afternoon. Thursday, April 13th at 10 a.m. is Yizkor at Ermis. It will be at Ermis. This will be the concluding day of the festival, and it will be memorial service as well. Please note that on April 18th is Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance, April 18th, and April 19th, we resume our current event classes. Okay? So it's going to be, we're kicking into full work. Cindy, any stuff coming up?
Yeah, it's a good month. April 17th, it's in the calendar. We're working with Rabbi Nanas for an ethnic lunch at Rosalind's Ethiopian restaurant. It'll be a tasting menu of 14 different dishes. So there's only one that was spicy. As you know, you take your injera and you eat with your injera. So come hungry. It's $30, but you need a reservation if you want a seat. The next day, April 18th, we're having happy hour at Jonah's restaurant. Oh, Rosalind's is men and women. Everyone is invited to that. On the 25th, we're celebrating Israel's Independence Day. Another tasting menu. It just kind of worked out that way this year. At Nua, which is an Israeli restaurant, the tasting menu will have 5 appetizers, 5 main dishes, and 3 desserts. So you're going to find something you like. If you've never had a Jerusalem bagel, they're amazing. That is $40. And again, all women should have gotten an email. It's been in the Wilshire Weekly. It's on the calendar. So 3 different ways to register. On the 27th, we're having a Zoom of Prague. It's not yet publicized for the link, but that should be done this week. And the 28th, we're having Shabbat dinner at Froman's, and everyone is invited to that.
Thank you, Cindy. I'll be in your heart and praying. But I'm saving my money right now and I can't come,
Okay.
but you're invited to the wedding.
I would
Cindy.
like to say, Cindy, that I started off by saying I am heavy with Passover foods. It helped me by putting in 14 other major dinners. Thankfully, I'm not invited to most.
You'll be at Rosalind's. You said
Yeah.
you like Ethiopian.
Yeah.
Cindy, the April 18th, was that the happy hour? I'm sorry. I
Happy
missed
hour
that.
at Jonah's, 5:00.
I got that down here.
Okay, that's on April 18th, the happy hour, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll be thinking of y'all. Make a toast.
Okay, please, Donna.
Okay, Rabbi.
No, please.
I can't help it. I'm happy.
I would appreciate it that during the happy hour, you take a collective moment to note Yom HaShoah, which is that day. Okay,
Oh,
collectively, just whatever it is you choose to do is right. You'll do it. Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
Rabbi.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much,
Good.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Donna. Please,
I said, thank you, Rabbi.
Donna, please. Don't call out, please. Okay.
Shout out, Stanley.
Now, what we have, let's see, checking in on all the things that have been happening. And I know that Tamara has to leave early. She's working this morning, so Shabbat Shalom. Okay, Sue Casa.
I just want to say on Yom HaShoah Day, I'm going to be part of the March of the Living in Poland this year.
Oh, fantastic.
Fabulous.
It's a
great.
trip that was rescheduled. We were supposed to go pre-COVID and the trip was canceled. So we are going. We're leaving on Thursday. So I won't see you all for a couple of weeks.
Oh. What kind of a group is going? Who are you
That's
going
actually
with?
not true. You can very easily sign into Chevra Torah from wherever you are. So, don't
I
blame.
know, but it's the middle of the night, I think. I'll catch you on
Don't
tape.
blame the Poles for everything. By the way, it's kind of interesting. Poland and Russia and Israel just reestablished the format for these programs. Poland had objected because some of the March of the Living programming mentioned the guilt of Poles.
Mm.
And the Poles didn't like that at all. But that created actually a breach that lasted for months. But thankfully, we're back on track. Okay, any other checking in? I hope that everyone had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Pesach so far. And going forward, it'll be great. My cooking skills have not improved. I made one Passover cake so far, and I just have a question to all of you. When you overbake the cake and it's dry, what can you do to revive it? If
Cool
you
Whip.
what?
Cool Whip.
Cool Whip. I don't know.
Cool Whip revives anything.
Give Stanley some.
Okay, so we're going to be struggling. Dip it in coffee or milk.
Dip it in anything you want.
Yeah, I have a bottle of good wine. I think I just may dip it in the wine and not care.
Good idea. Good idea, Rabbi.
We love you, Rabbi.
With something else to check in, anything else? If not, we're going to get to our text.
No, I have something to say. I love you.
It is so
Okay.
good to be together. Today is Shabbat Chol HaMoed Pesach. It's the Sabbath, which precedes, in other words, whatever happens in the world, the first thing is Sabbath, right? So Shabbat Chol HaMoed, which basically means intermediate days of the festival. So Chol HaMoed basically is if you observe 1 day Pesach up front and 1 day Pesach at the end, everything in between is Chol HaMoed. 2 days Yontif up front, 2 days Yontif at the back, then everything in between is Chol HaMoed. So it's just an interesting thing. What it does do is knock the Torah reading for this week out of its slot. Okay? So instead of reading what should be the reading for this week, we have special Chol HaMoed, Shabbat, Pesach readings. And for the major Torah reading, Exodus 33:12 to 34:26. Exodus 33:12 to 34:26. I have 592 in the Plout. If Risa, I don't know where you are. I don't see you. Where's Risa?
I'm here. Oh, here I am.
Okay, very good. I only see the top of your head, of course. And we can get the women's commentary.
I'm getting there.
Also of interest is there's a special haftarah for today, Ezekiel chapter 37. You can check that out. Really, really interesting.
Page 508 in the commentary.
508 in the women's commentary. Thank you. Then there is a special Megillah read today. You know, there are 5 Megillot, 5 scrolls. The most famous is Esther, and that's read on Purim. What scroll is read today? Which of the 5 Megillot, the 5 scrolls, Donna?
I think it's Song of Songs.
It surely is. The song of passion and joy and rampant sexuality. Okay, so that's read today. So we have a short Torah reading, and then with all the extra stuff, it gets long. God forbid you get out of shul early. There's also an additional Torah reading for Shabbat Chol HaMoed Pesach. Let's leave all that.
Excuse me, Rabbi, that's a wedding song, the wedding song.
Now, are we ready to jump into our text? And
Yes.
you have to really believe that this text for Jews, for Christians, for just about anyone is one of the most important theological texts in the Torah. I don't know if there's more written about this than anything else, but every once in a while I have that feeling. So Moses says to the Eternal. Now, God and Moses are speaking. Moses says, "See, you say to me, lead this people forward, but you have not made known to me whom you will send with me. Rather, you have said, I have singled you out by name, and you have indeed gained my favor." Take this apart. We're going to do that with each verse. They're very, very rich. Take it apart. What do we have here? Moses says to God, you told me to lead this people. You didn't tell me who's going to go with me, but you said, I have singled you out by name, and you have gained favor in my eyes. What's being said here? What's going on? Okay, Sukasa.
Is this where the Israelites have said that God made them the chosen people by, in other words, Moses was chosen, and by extension, the Israelites were chosen? And is this perhaps the beginning of anti-Semitism, a source for it?
You threw a lot in there. Actually, to answer the last thing first, no, it's not the source of anti-Semitism, because thank God, anti-Semitism doesn't need any stimulation. It comes about without this. This is not the chosen people text. There are those texts that do it. But it's talking about Moses and Moses's job. When he says, I have singled you out by name, Moses is the name that has been singled out. Moses. Moses is uncomfortable. What's he uncomfortable about? Okay, I see Marina.
I think Moses is in doubts. He questions his role and his power as a leader, and he's asking God. It's a statement, but I think he's asking God, did you really find me in your favor?
What does this immediately follow in the Torah text? Any idea? It's really important to connect it. What does this immediately follow? I could turn back to page 589 in the Plout. And what do we got here? Moses is coming down the mountain. It's not the sound of triumph. It's not. It's a golden calf.
Of the
Just two, 4 pages before this incredible encounter with God. So what's Moses doing? What's going on? What's going on? What do we have here?
And the little thing there?
Yeah, with this pump.
Okay.
Doris, please shut your mic off.
We got about 5 or 6 different stuff.
Okay.
Shut your mic off.
Doris, turn off your
Mike.
mic.
I have it on. I'm sorry.
Okay.
My husband had to ask me something urgent. Okay, go ahead. Apologize.
Risa? Did you have your hand up? You didn't. Yes, Risa.
I think it's the breaking of the tablets.
The breaking of the tablets has occurred already. And now what is going on?
May I say, Rabbi?
Donna?
I think it's the golden calf. He sees the golden calf.
The golden calf is there. Moses is trying out of fear to reestablish a relationship with God in his conduct of leadership of the Israelites. And also, believe me, Moses is not altogether certain that God is smiling, okay? Because it has been a very tough time. So Moses says, okay, God, you want me to lead this people, but you haven't told me who is going to accompany us. What does this mean? This is theology. This is talking. Natalie? No, not you're muted, Natalie.
To me, it looks like he is scared out of his mind.
Yeah,
Moses is very frightened for this responsibility.
And he wants certainty. And God said, I'm going to be with you. What does Moses not expect based on this question?
What he doesn't expect.
Okay, Merle.
I think he's afraid that God's going to come with him and take over everything that God gave him to do before.
That's one thing. You could take it the flip side, though. What,
Maybe
God,
he feels
Moses knows very well. Mara? You're muted. There we go.
I wasn't going to respond to that exactly. I was curious why the text says, and Moses said unto the Lord, see. Why Moses is in essence ordering God to see.
Oh, here we go.
I don't know about ordering God, inviting God. I think that's a really interesting question. Tamara, do you have any insight on the word see?
Yeah, if we think of it as look, this is what's going on. So I see it more like, look, this is where we are, rather than a command to more colloquial than a command to see, but also invitation for God to really take a close look at what has been going on and how it is experienced by Moses.
And I would also say, look around you at the disaster you just brought about, God. Re'eh, I mean, that look at all the dead bodies. Look at all the disaster. And you want me to lead this people, and I don't have anyone who's going to go with me. I am not comfortable. Tsukasa.
If you read the next few verses, he's asking God to come along, and God reassures him by saying he's going to lighten the burden, and that the people will know that he is going to be the leader. So I think he doubted his ability to lead. He wanted a sign from God, and God told him, yeah, I'm going to let it be known that you have gained favor and you're going to be the leader.
Yeah, I think that Moses is constantly having a little bit of insecurity, anxiety. I'm not sure what we describe it as, but it is a problem. And Moses says to God, hey, which is what Tamara says we should translate Re'eh. Hey, hey, look what's going on. What's going to happen? How am I going to validate my leadership? God says, I have singled you out by name. What does the Hebrew say, Donna? Donna Shapiro, what does the Hebrew say? I have singled you out by name. What is the Hebrew? You're leaving? It says Yidaticha.
Hold on.
Yidaticha. And
You,
it's funny.
you knew me.
Pardon?
You knew me.
Yidaticha. Yadati otcha. I
knew you. I knew you.
Now, Yidaticha.
Where am I?
Is translated, I have singled you out by name. You know me, I am infinitely picky. It's Yadati is K-N-O-W. Yadaticha b'shem, I know you by name. Fine, give us a fancier translation, but singled out, it to me is a little bit problematic. It's saying what the translator wants to hear, not what the text is saying. That's a Stanley. I don't know if that's true, but it seems that way. Okay, Moses says to God, hey, you said to me, bring up this people, but you haven't told me whom you're going to send with me. And now on top of it, you say, I know you by name, Moses. Big deal. I know you by name, Moses. V'gam matzata chen be'einecha. I love the phrase matzati chen. I don't know why. It's such a nice phrase. Matzati chen. Chen is grace, right? Grace. You have found grace in my eyes, but in modern Hebrew today, you like me. You like me. It's good. It's good. Okay. A very nice thing. It's informal, familiar. Moses, if I could, I'd hug you. That's what God is saying. That you have found favor in my eyes. And so Moses picks that up. And now, if really I have found favor in your eyes, show me your ways. Let me know your ways. And then I will know what it means to find favor in your eyes. We love you, Moses. Oh, cool. Now, tell me what you want of me so I'll know what this love means. Great. God, there's a little bit. I don't see Moses and God relaxed in their relationship here. Moses said, God, you called me. You said I found favor. You like me. Hey, God. I'm not sure what that means. I mean, by the way, look at those corpses. I'm not sure what that means, God. So do me a favor. Help me with I like you. Okay? If it's true, show me your ways. Let me know your ways. And then I'll know what it means to be liked by God. And then this people really is your people.
May I ask you a question, Rabbi?
Please.
Remember when you were teaching a couple of weeks ago about God told Moses to go into the unknown and believe and expect miracles? That's what I'm doing.
Okay, good. Now, Donna Shapiro.
I think in terms of a theological thing and the whole chosenness business, I think what it's saying is it's not enough to just be chosen. You have to know what you're being chosen for. And it's not that we're so special, it's that we're going to follow what God has to say. So to the extent that we don't follow God's laws, there's nothing particularly special about us.
I agree with that.
I'm going to approach the tour guide for this group and ask the tour guide if we can please go back to verse 11. This is the setup. It's a basketball term, I know. This is a setup for what is going to follow. And God spoke with Moses. You want to talk about theological challenges? Panim el panim. Folks, that's a great verse. God spoke to Moses face
to face.
To face. Forgive me. What the heck does that mean? Panim el panim. Asher yedaber ish el re'ehu. This is critically important. You're going to get a PhD in theology before today is over. This is critically important. God and Moses spoke face to face. What's the value added of saying, as a man speaks with his friend? What's the value added for that, Howard?
I think Moses was speaking to the pillar of fire face to face.
That's part of it, but there's more here, Jeff.
About that, I mean, I think that in ancient tradition, if you came face to face with a god, you would be destroyed. It's all through Greek mythology and that sort of thing, that the fact that he could talk to him is an amazing singularity in the history of talking to gods, I think.
an amazing singularity. I like what you do with words. An amazing singularity, yes. And dangerous, Jeff? Very dangerous, as in die. It is a very dangerous thing. But that phrase, God and Moses spoke face to face like friends speak, is trying to clarify a very important feature of what's happening here. Mara.
I had one follow-up though, Rabbi, which is, I thought later God said, you can't see my face, but you can see my back.
Yes, that's part of this. It's later. Yes.
So it's weird if he's already shown him his face, that he says, you can't look upon my face, you can only see my back.
Okay, Jeff, I can give you 73 quotations from scholars who say what God is saying at this point, you can't see me directly, but you can see me indirectly through my acts. And
Right.
That's what God means by I'll show you, you can see my back.
I
Right.
agree with that.
And my final point that I originally put my hand up with is that I think what Moses is doing here, I think Moses feels like he's been hung out to dry in a way. It reinforces what you were saying earlier, dead bodies, all these problems. And he's saying, you're pushing me in front of the people. Say, follow this guy. Says, what about you? Where are you? You've got to lead us. I see a guy saying, don't put me out. Don't put all this on me. You've got to get in front.
Because not only might God kill Moses, but the people might kill Moses.
Right.
A lot of leaders end up being murdered by the people they would lead. Okay, let's go forward. Effie.
Yes, I don't think when it says face to face, I think it just means not because God doesn't have a face. It just means the intimacy which they're talking to each other.
I'm into intimacy. We're getting closer. Brad.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think the key word here is intimacy, that Moses is looking for a level of intimacy with God that God apparently is not prepared to enter into with him.
What
Because
is the value added of saying as one person speaks to another? Tamara.
It means they're equal. They're equal partners in this conversation. There is no hierarchy. Is one of
the word conversation is key here, right? Conversation is when I speak with you and you speak with me. It's not God thundering from Sinai. This is intimacy. That God would speak to Moses face to face like two friends would talk with each other. This is an amazing description of how Moses encountered God. At the burning bush, we don't even think about. God says, take your shoes off. All right, I'll take my shoes off. What do you want? Here, there. Moses, go to Egypt. I don't like Egyptian food. Whatever goes on. But they're talking with each other. They're having a conversation. It's not going to a source that will tell you what God wants. God and Moses are trying to develop an intimate relationship. And I want to just finish the point. The next part, and serving him was Joshua ben Nun. Now, I have a Maserati in my driveway, and I'm going to perhaps offer it to the one who, not tomorrow, maybe not, but to the one who picks this up. That's not Joshua's name. Yehoshua ben Nun. The English refuses to tell you that. Yehoshua bin Nun.
Which verse is this?
What should it be? Yehoshua ben Nun.
Son of?
Ben. And the text vocalizes it as bin Nun. Okay?
Ben.
What's the Hebrew word bina means? Bina. Donna, don't just point to your forehead. What does it mean?
Understanding.
Understand.
Hello.
Well, Eric, 1 second, please. He was Joshua's role from here on out, when God and Moses speak, is to supply Moses with an understanding of what is going on. That's how the rabbis handle that vocalization. Is that an exaggeration? I think so. But it is a beautiful moment when the rabbis look at this text and they want to find everything in it. Now, my last point, and I'm going to get to Eric. The rabbis pick up on this conversation and compare it to the conversation of Balaam. Do you remember Balaam, the prophet with the talking
Donkey.
Is it
Yes.
donkey?
Donkey.
Yeah, I remember.
I have a small speech problem. I keep calling it donkey.
Donkey.
And it enrages Risa. So I tried, but now I never know which one I'm supposed to say. Okay, like she said, Balaam
Donkey.
and the four-legged critter. The Balaam gets communication from God. Moses talks with God. Big difference, and the rabbis pick up on it. Eric?
You said something about face to face. People on the autistic spectrum are trained not to look people in the face, so they don't get all the communication from the person. I know the spectrum very well, and if you don't pick up on facial cues and everything, you get half the message. So you got to speak to God face to face in order to pick up the whole message. Capiche?
And Eric, may I add that the commentator Sforno said face to face means looking directly into the other person's eyes.
That was
Amen.
a problem
Amen.
with people on the autism level 1 spectrum.
And this is
Looking
the point
people at the
when I discovered Sforno's comment, I almost fell off my chair. Sforno says that the whole point of face-to-face is so that God and Moses could see each other's eyes and really know what the other was saying.
Ain't that because
I love it.
But I hope you understood what I told
Yes,
you.
I
yes.
understood, Eric, and I'm saying that Sforno understood hundreds of years ago. Yes, yes. Okay, David. Hi, David.
Hi. I don't think that this is a relationship, a conversation between friends. It certainly seems to me, and unless I missed any context of the words, that it's more of a master and his pupil. It's not things that friends would say to each other. It's more of somebody ordering and then the other person, Moses, questioning, etc. And then I also think about these things, what would I do and or other regular people do if they thought that they heard God talking to them? Would we think it's a hallucination? Would we think, are we crazy? Even if we saw miracles that God did, are we the only ones that saw it? So I applaud Moses for being able to deal with this situation and apparently not questioning his sanity like I probably would.
David, I think you raised really good points, really good. And part of what I would say is it was not that unusual for gods to talk with people back in the day.
Rabbi, they do it now. He does it now.
The thought that a God would communicate in a variety of ways is just not as frightening as it is today. That's one thing. And the other thing, before I get to Risa, the other thing is the relationship between Moses and God is not static. It has a lot of ups and a lot of downs. You know, when your closest friend says, Moses, you're going to die, you know, that's not necessarily a friendly gesture. Okay? And when God says, you alone do I know by name, and you're my special friend, that's cool. Moses is speaking with God, and sometimes Moses yells at God. Sometimes he yells at him. Don't do this. God says, Moses, I'm sick and tired of this people. I'm going to kill them all. I'll make your children my new people. And Moses responds with eloquent Yiddish. Halt zachai nepes. Hold it.
Yeah, hold back, Lord.
Hold it. Don't do this. So yeah, there were moments, David, in the text when Moses and God are very close, intimate. And there are moments in the text when God is imperious and there is no intimacy like that.
Thank you.
Risa.
I want to call to your attention what Mara wrote in the chat and didn't raise her hand. I think it's very important. Now we're clarifying what the word see means.
Mara, do you want to take what Risa threw at me and comment on your words?
No, I was just commenting that based on what Eric said, it gives new interpretation to the word see in verse 12.
Yes, it does. That's great.
I think that's great.
No, that's great. Thank you, Risa. Thank you, Mara.
Rabbi, may I comment on that?
Second, please.
See, okay, vision, see the signs, like you said, miracles and signs and wonders do surround those who truly humbly communicate with Adonai. And I believe that when we open the ark and we pray, and if you're like childlike faith, that God will show you, like you said that yourself, believe, go into the unknown and expect miracles. And I'm living by that, and I'm going to stand on that.
Okay, we're going to have to ask you to stop calling out. That's the
okay, Rabbi.
Of the game. Okay, so Mara, when you say see, you're emphasizing look into my eyes, I'll look into your eyes, and we will know what we're talking about.
Well, yeah, I was just emphasizing Eric's point that you have to see the whole face. It can't just be a partial knowledge of the other person. And I thought Eric's point was really to that point in the text.
And I'm not going to go into other concerns. How do people who are sight impaired, vision impaired, learn to read the face of another person so they can understand what the deeper meanings could be? And also the same with people who are hearing impaired. I mean, these things are out there. And Mara, you're right, we forget the use of vision and hearing to interpret what's going on in front of us. That's really good. That's really good. Okay, I just a lot here. Now, I want to go forward because this is all theology. Now, if I've truly gained your favor, let me know your ways, that I may know you and consider to this nation as your people. And the Hebrew is Amcha Hagoy Hazeh. Your people, this Goy, this nation is your people. And everyone knows that the word Goy in the Hebrew context means a nation. Israel is a Goy Kadosh, a holy people. The word Goy was not used in the Torah to refer to non-Jews. Okay? It refers to any nation. We are Goyim. They are Goy. Everyone is a Goy, a nation of its own. Now, looking forward, God said, and ladies, good news on this one. And God said, I will go in the lead and will lighten your burden. And that's not what the Hebrew says. I sometimes have real frustration. Look what the Hebrew says. Panai yelechu. My face will go before you. And the English says, I will go in the lead. Yuck. This is not, okay. Panai yelechu. And because I am with you, your burden will be lightened. And the rabbis say, what does it mean? Panai yelechu. And this is critically important. God isn't going to spend the divine time walking with the Israelites through the desert. God's got a cosmos to run. What, the rabbis ask, does it mean, Panai yelechu? My face will walk before you. And the rabbis answer the question. This means that the presence of God that accompanied the Israelites through the desert is the Shekhinah.
Yes.
The feminine aspect of God is the designated accompanier. I know that's bad, but the designated accompanier of the Israelites through the desert. God there are things we can't fathom. One thing that we can't fathom is how God relates to us on a personal level. And in this verse, the rabbis take advantage of the situation and say, no, it is not the infinite whatever God. It is an aspect of God, the feminine aspect of God that accompanies the Israelites through the desert. We don't get God with us like, come on, I'm going to spend the next 40 years, humping through sand dunes. No. But the Shekhinah, the presence of God. And then I have to remind you of the danger of what I just said. How do we maintain a Shekhinah presence in a monotheistic world. And if we're going to be honest with ourselves, we're going to say, this is a problem. How does God accompany us? An aspect of God splits off. Complicated. I see Howard, and they were, okay, Howard, please.
Something that I sometimes have trouble with is with the traditional commentators is that they just pull things out of thin air to make a point they want to make that's maybe consistent with their politics, as far as I can see. And now in this case, we have more liberal, we have this Shekhinah being pulled out of thin air, and it bothers me. Where does this come from?
By the time the rabbi said it, it wasn't out of thin air. It already had existed in their understanding of Torah and in their understanding of God. Howard, it is wait 1 second. It is the incredible problem, which I've referenced maybe every week. How does the absolute infinite interact with the horribly finite? That's us.
I can see that that's a problem, but I don't see that it's directly addressed in the text. This says panim, which means presence or face.
And remember, I think it was back on the first day of our class 8 years ago or something, the difference between exegesis and eisegesis. Exegesis is when you derive meaning X out of the text, and eisegesis is when you put meaning in the text. And the discovery of the Shekhinah is prime eisegetical. No one's going to disagree with you, Howard. It's prime eisegetical. You start off with a commitment that you have an infinite, absolute God. You start off with another commitment that this God is in eternal contact with us. And then you create something which fills the gap. And that's what they did.
That's what the Christians did, like so with Isaiah, especially.
It's not just the Christians.
They saw things that they wanted to hear. They heard things that they wanted to hear, and they
everybody. Howard, it's everybody. Because the problem is unanswerable. If you view God as absolute and infinite, and then directly involved in our personal lives, concerns, anguish, joys, you must create something in between. And that's where Father, Son, Holy Ghost comes from. That's where Shekhinah comes from. That's why the Zoroastrian, the Zoroastrians have to have two gods so they can work it out. The absolute monotheism of Islam still requires ways to have a prophet be an intermediary and bring God into their lives. And then Islam, with absolute monotheism, plays big with angels. Gotta have a bunch of angels. Why does everybody need this? Because it doesn't work otherwise.
Amen, Rabbi.
It's correct. I have to answer, no. It is part of
Isn't it better to work with what's there rather than just making up your own stuff?
Howard, in
With progress.
fairness, and I have to go on because we're at the end. In fairness, what we have to work with is insufficient. It's not coherent. There's much that's missing, and people who bring intense logic to biblical study know that things are not coherent. And therefore, to us, as students of Torah, scholars of the law, we already know that if we had to rely upon just the literal words of Torah, we would be lost. Okay, I want to get to Stacy, who has not said a word today yet, and then we're going to have to end. Stacy?
Okay. I don't know if this is a viable correlation or what, and I'd be curious what your thoughts are on that. But if we're sort of looking at the context of God back in the day as, male and paternalistic, is there any relationship between the fact that a generation ago, we only had male rabbis, but now we have female rabbis, we have female cantors? I mean, is it more that, we have a more modern view of, religious aspects of our life? I don't know. Maybe this is a completely irrelevant question, but it just came to my mind when we were talking about the whole idea of, the gender of God and whether there was a feminine aspect.
I want to point out that going to female clergy totally violates 2,000 years of Jewish teaching. And it is teaching, in my eyes, which is flawed and incomplete. But if you go to what is literally there, that's the game. We changed. We added Shekhinah 2,000 years ago. We added women clergy today, and more change is coming. And by the way, I could go into specifics, but more change is coming. Quickly, Brad, I do want to get this. Brad?
Okay, Rabbi, I'm curious if you're familiar with the philosopher Levinas, who is the philosopher of the face-to-face encounter. And what he says is when you're in a face-to-face relationship with somebody, when you see that other person's face, what that does is it triggers in you an ethical responsibility to that other person. So is there a way maybe to look at this passage in terms of responsibilities to each other?
You asked Levinas, and it's kind of funny because Tamara and I have been arguing Levinas for the past 4 or 5 years. And Levinas is, of course, in the Buberian school, with all the variations, but is there. Is that a possibility? I would say to you, Brad, yes, it's a possibility, but it is a contemporary possibility. It is like Shekhinah. It is an intellectual, psychological, spiritual rewriting of what was there. And the fact that Judaism can absorb, love, and grow from such innovation is one of the things that is great about who we are. Because believe me, what Levinas was saying, had he said to Rashi, he would have gotten a cold fish for lunch. That's not Jewish. And now today, Levinas is one of the great teachers. because we change. Judaism is alive. And I think that's beautiful. I have to go ahead, forgive me, I have to go ahead with Kaddish and Yortzeit. And I didn't say hello to Maya, my granddaughter, for which I will pay a price. Okay, and I see Pam, and I see Joy, Joseph, there are people there, and I just have to say hello to everybody. And I know do you know the last time was that I had a conversation like this? Pretty much never. Pretty much never. Thank you for tolerating the discomfort. This passage that we were reading is one of the most important sources of Jewish theology that we have. Go on with the reading. It is enormously important. And then, so that you smile and figure life is not totally boring, the rabbi said two things. Moses, I'm going to have to teach you how to pray to me to get what you want. You're not doing a good job. Read that again. I almost fell off my chair. Really? Yeah. Rabbis, Moses, you don't get it. You're going to have to go through prayer training. And then the last thing, Moses has a vision of God. Panim el panim. And Rashi says, you know what? God was wearing a tallis. Okay, I just want to leave you with that, because the notion that time passes, people change. Nah, God was in a tallis. I imagine he was like this, talking, Maisha, look, baby, you know, and this is how the rabbis understood God communicating with Moses. You got to love it. Thank you. Our Kaddish list. I do hope that we'll be able to set up a retreat of some kind, maybe over the summer. You know, maybe some of you will pop up and say, I'll take responsibility and help, you know, make it happen. But boy, I would love to have a chance to just sit in a relaxed environment and not have a 1 hour limit. Those who passed away during the past month: Norman Epstein, Donna Golden, Ron Gordon, Homer Gurin, Ruth Kalin, Joseph Joey Klein, Phillips Kogan, John Levi Jr., Judith Miller, Ronald Schiff, Fran Shanbrum, Kazlet, Susanna Tizabi, Dave Wolf. And the following, the anniversaries of these deaths have occurred during this past week: Nate Adlin, Winifred Anderson, Moses Armel, Eli Moses, Auntie, Roberta Beer, Laura Baumwall, Cindy Bender, Evan Bennett, Jack Berman, Joseph Barrow, Reba Block, Leslie Bluestone, Robert Blumkin, Doris Bortz, Paul Chan, Robert Cohn, Ben Cohn, Betty Stein Coleman, Elliot Dissner, Victor Eport, Musa Farhadi, Beatrice Ferris, W. Ben Finkel, Ivan Freistadt, Etu Fula, Ruth Glader, Jerry Gold, Paul Goldberg, Sophia Gray Goldman, Burton Goldwater, Milton Lumpert, Eleanor Gutman, Eleanor Hallam, Rose Hamburger, Betty Holland, Rita Howard, David Howard, Felix Judah, Ethel Can, Beverly Kay, Helen Kelson, Mark David Kessler, John King, Sylvia Klausner, Sandra Kubata, Dora Kreshik, Richard Colwin, Morris Lee Kurtz, Lynette Kurtzman, Bob Coit, Louis Lackman, Paul Lamport, Morris Levine, Rachel Levitt, Charles Lieber, Rose Linker, Barbara Lipman, Gilbert Weiser, Hans Lowe, William Lowenberg, Alice Rose Mallon, Thelma Marshall, Marcus Marin, Bill Miller, Leonard Miller, Eleonora Mendel, Nathan Nordell, Ronald Onken, Jeremy Orlando, Rosalind Ostrovsky, Nehemiah Purcell, Ernest Phillips, Albert Reyes, Dorothy Natalie Rosen, Mother Rosenbach, Arnold Rosenthal, Bernard Schiff, Linda Schneid, Abraham Shapiro, Christina Siegel, Linda Geller Silverman, Odell Silverstein, Harry Silverstein, Leo Simon, Katie Skluth, Mark Slangerup, Selma Sobel, Bella Steyer, Marilyn Stein, Stephen Sturman, Justin Herbert Slogate, Wendy Joe Suckman, Herschel Tenenbaum, Semyon Weisstock, Philip Wexler, William Weil, Julius Zellman. I apologize for names that I mispronounced. If you would like to speak other names or hold those names now in your hearts, please take advantage of the time. Speak those names now.
Those who died in Israel, the terrorist attack this week.
Thank you.
Chris
You're
Martin.
welcome.
Lillian Pelzer.
My mother, Rose Caden.
We add to those names the names of those who died in defense of the United States, the names who died in defense of the state of Israel, the names of all of those who died through senseless, horrible terrorism, and the names of those who have no one to say Kaddish for them. We take all of their names into our hearts. We say Kaddish together. Yitkadal.
Yikadal, Yikadal, Shmei Rabbi.
Yoma, B'chayechon, Uvyomechon, B'chayechon, Ba'agala, Izman Karev, Yehi Shmei Rabba, Mevorach, La'alam, Uliolmei Almaya, Yitbarach, V'yittabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitalal, V'yitalal, Shemei D'Kudishah, La'ela, Mikro, Birchata, Tushbata, Nechamata, Ta'amirat Alma, Hey Shlama, V'chayim,
Aleinu, Hakol Yisrael, Amen. Oseh Shalom B'Romav.
Aleinu
Amen.
God who makes peace in the high places, make peace in our hearts, make peace in our homes, make peace in the household of Israel, make peace among all the families and nations of earth, and let us say,
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I love you so much.
Happy
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful week.
You too, dear.
Shabbat
Shalom.
Bye, shalom. Bye-bye.
Shabbat Shalom.
Bye, Rita. Bye, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Shabbat
Thank
Shalom.
you, Joy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay.